You guys here? Can't see anything yet. Okay, we got people. Okay, looks like I got 8 watching. Can you guys hear me? Anybody home? I don't see anybody. Might be a quick live stream. Okay, got 11 watching. We just don't have anybody online that I can see in the chat. Let me refresh it. Maybe we'll see some people. Can you guys hear? 14 watching. I don't see anybody in the chat. Hola. 12 people watching. 13. Nobody saying anything. What are you guys on? Okay, chat's working now. All right, Jesse's in the house. Johnny B, Jose. Press starts here. All right, we got folk. We got folk here. We got folk here. Zeppelin in the house, Johnny B in the house, James Horger in the house, Team Bob in the house. It was on error for a little bit. Okay. Still trying to figure this live streaming stuff out, guys. I don't think I'll ever get good at it, but we're going to keep trying. We're going to keep trying. What's going on, rural juror? Wifey's taking care of Sayla. She's still a little groggy from the surgery. We had a hell of a 24 hours, I'll tell you that. Your video has been blocked. Where was it blocked? Oh man, Sori's not gonna like that. Vid got blocked. Gojira's new single, you'll love it. Advice on playing guitar for the first time. Get your major scale down. It's a big thing. I would have been a lot better as a guitarist if I would have started with the major scale first. Hola from Argentina, what's up? Cameron Paul, what's up? What's up? First time here. Good evening, Vin. Good to see you, Soltero. Get some of that good internet. Yeah. Surgery, what happened? She was opening a can of chili and she clean sliced her hand right through, got 4 stitches, but then severed a tendon, and then the tendon went down into her like palm. Yeah, it was pretty grody. But she's a gangster. She didn't shed one tear. It's unbelievable. She's a tough girl. Tough girl. What's up, Militia Walker? Love you too, buddy. De Herrera, we finally meet. We finally meet, sir. We've already done a Blue Oyster Cult reaction. I'd like to do more. They're an extremely intriguing band. Doug Johnson, DJ in the house. Thanks for being here, buddy. I appreciate it. To everybody that was here yesterday, thank you very freaking much. It's been a hell of a week, I'll tell you what. But we all made it through, so thank God for that. 275 in the house. How many Korn shows have you been to? 1, 2, first one, second one. I feel like I'm missing one. The April 8th, Pepsi Arena. I want to say I've been to 3 Korn shows. Zombieholic. Glad it went well. Yeah, I mean, rural, all I need is one more situation in my life to get set up and I'll truly be happy. I've got a music project that's on hold until stuff starts coming through, but I'm gonna keep on keeping it on hold until the right time. But yeah, aside from that, I'm pretty good, rural juror. What's up, y'all? Just got power back. What happened with y'all? Well, I mean, I think long story short is folks got arrested. They've got a court date coming up. But the kids are okay, and that's what's most important. Yes, I did like that Black Label Society song, and I actually enjoyed the video more than the song. Big fan from UK. Hope you're all well and staying safe. We're doing good. We're doing good. Staying safe. Safe was not the theme of the week this week for sure. Thanks, Zombieholic. Harmonic minor is also my favorite scale, but that's just because I'm a one-dimensional player and I love minor. So I just stay in it and stay in it and stay in it forever. Have wife call me when she can. Okay? I will do that. I will have wife call you. Wants you to call her when you can. You rock. Thank you, Skelly. You rock too. You should please react to Magua, Power, and Will 4. What's the worst new metal band in my opinion? That's such a tough question because there was never a, during the new metal era, bands were coming out like every other day. And I think it's because the style was so easy to pick up. It's not like Iron Maiden or something where you're going to do, those harmonies and those solos and things like that. Those are really hard to pick up from your garage. But new metal was such an easy... You didn't necessarily have to be proficient at your instrument or proficient as a singer-songwriter. And so there were like 5,000 bands coming out every day. So it's very hard for me to say which was the worst new metal band. Because I felt like all of them were bad. I did not think Limp Bizkit was a bad new metal band. Now, it's like, I guess it's in style to go after Limp Bizkit, but I don't know, man. They spent a lot of time on the top, and I would never say that they weren't a good band, because I think Wes Borland is a legit guitarist. Fred Durst. I mean, I never really looked at him as a big singer, artist, songwriter, whatever. Um, hey, for no other reason than for love for friend and fam. Thanks, Ranter Man. I appreciate that. What's up, B? Puddle of Mud. Yeah, Puddle of Mud was another band that everybody was after. But what is that song? Blurry? What are my thoughts on Ravi Zacharias? I think that evangelicalism has a very sticky relationship, probably a poor choice of words, with sexual assault as regards to women, and making the victim the perpetrator, and making the perpetrator the victim. I'll just say it that way. Sori has alluded to it. Maybe one day she'll tell her story. I'm not sure. But, I mean, I'm not surprised. You know, I mean, it is what it is. People covered up for him. People demonized the people that said things, about it. I was actually in a forum a couple years ago. I was in this like super secret, kind of feminist evangelical forum, and the first woman that broke the story was actually in the middle of it, and I was there, and they were talking about him in code. I didn't know who they were talking about, and then I got dragged into this other super secret room, and then his name got brought up, and I was like, whoa, that's a pretty big fish. And she was showing us the emails and all the rest of it, asking people for advice what to do. And she was not dealt with very well by Ravi's ministry or any. Long story short, but it took a a mountain of a multitude of issues where he couldn't weasel out of it till finally folks said, okay, yeah, he's a problem. But this thing got broken about 2 or 3 years ago, and he was able to dodge the bullet. They demonized the girl. So, that's evangelicalism, man. That's what they do. And there's not, hopefully, they can figure it out. But I don't think it's going to get figured out pretty soon here. I'm still upset we never got perp walk photos of Ghislaine or Epstein. Is Ghislaine still around? Marcello, no. There were people who were, this young lady had irrefutable evidence, and Ravi came up with some story, and Zim just looked the other way and went forward and pretended that the girl was crazy. So, there you go. Vin, do you believe people who commit suicide go to heaven if they're saved? My dad did, and sometimes I wonder. Saber, send me an email. I never answer that question live. So send me an email. I'll try to answer it, inshallah. Who was the first musical artist who got you into music? Either New Kids on the Block or Weird Al Yankovic. No, it's okay, Saber. Just send me an email, vinansori@gmail.com. You didn't do anything wrong. It's just I'm trying to... Hey, Vin, remember me? We met a few times in your previous live stream. We exchanged a few emails. Just wanted to tell you that I've made progress, and now I'm a year and 4 months clean from heroin. Holy moly, Paul McCartney. That's really, really good, man. That's really, really good. I remember praying for you about that. So that's really awesome, bro. I'm happy to hear that. Don't Lie, it was Hanson. No, it was Weird Al Yankovic, and who was the other guy? Vanilla Ice, and the what do you call it? It was that boy band, Hanging Tough. I just talked about it. Oh, New Kids on the Block. There it is. Hanging Tough. Yeah, Hanging Tough was like really one of my first like song that I loved that I played 50 quadrillion times. But yeah, Hanging Tough. I remember I heard Smells Like Nirvana before actually I heard Smells Like Teen Spirit. And I thought that was the craziest song in the world. I was just like, I didn't know what he was saying, but you know, like just the energy of the song and things like that. I loved that. I loved it. I thought it was great. And then obviously Michael Jackson, you know, Bad, Beat It, Smooth Criminal. Smooth Criminal has been like one of my all-time favorite songs, period, much less Michael Jackson. That's the thing about pop stars today. Like songs like Billie Jean and Smooth Criminals, like thematic songs like that, like that's not in pop music anymore. And I'm like, why did they abandon that? That was such a cool thing, man, back in the day. Boyz II Men, my brother liked Boyz II Men. I wasn't a real fan of all the lovey-dovey stuff when I was a kid. So I'm sure Boyz II Men was really, really good. My brother listened to that all day, every day. But I was more like into the rap type of thing. I like the attitude. Outside of music, what rabbit holes do you find yourself going down on YouTube? Dane, I'm listening to this guy right now called it's Donald Hoffman, I think his name is. And he's written this book, The Case Against Reality, by Donald D. Hoffman. And it's just crazy, crazy stuff that like I've never heard before. So I'm like, and obviously has massive implications for a lot of things. Can even go into simulation theory, whole 9 yards. It's just really, really crazy. So that's what I'm looking at right now. He was part of QAnon. Yeah, who was part of QAnon? Outside of Biggie, who's the best rap artist? Because I know you're a Biggie fan, girl. I think Eminem is you know, being from the East Coast, lyricism is a real big thing for us. So Eminem, there's this Christian guy called Stephen the Levite who I really enjoy. But you know, usual suspects: Big, Jay-Z, Eminem. I think J. Cole is good. Lyrically, I think Biggie is just head and shoulders ahead of everybody by kind of like Tom Brady level. Good. But yeah, usual suspect. Rakim. Yeah, I respect Rakim. I respect Rakim as far as what he did for the culture. But I don't know. I just never saw him as on Big's level. Nas sometimes. Vin, what do you think of boomers saying they made their wealth from hard work despite inheriting the strength and stability of 40s welfare programs? Yeah, Ben, I just think that there's a lot of willful ignorance, and you know the job and the goal of Fox News is not to educate their constituency, right? So, I'll just say it that way. Notorious Thugs. Yeah, Notorious Thugs in my mind is the best rap song. Big's verse on Notorious Thugs is the best verse of all time in my opinion. The greatest rap song of all time is Nas's One Mic in my opinion. I've also written a song that I placed just below Nas's One Mic as far as like depth and lyrical content that I'm probably never, ever, ever going to release. I've a couple people in the village have heard it, but I'm probably never going to actually release it out to the public. But in my opinion, it's the second greatest rap song ever written. And I know. Do I like Ben Roethlisberger or Tom Brady? Come on, you're kidding me, right? 55 Porter, that's a joke. Do I think 9/11 was a controlled demolition? No. No, I don't. I'm back. Glad you're back too. Hey, Johnny Stout. Good to see you. Yeah, it's good to see all you guys. It's good to have you guys around. Holy moly, what a day yesterday was. Take 7 MCs, put them in a line, add 7 more who think they can rhyme. I'll take 7 more before I go for mine. Yeah. But yeah. What do you think of Run DMC? Again, one of those groups that I respect for the culture. I was never really a big fan of them, but I respect them because of the culture. Best rap song ever is Notorious Thugs. Yeah, I mean, the former singer of the Dead Kennedys made a song celebrating Limbaugh's death. Holy moly. I don't know, man. MF Doom, yeah. You like New Kids on the Block? Did you ever like New Edition? Maurice Starr produced. Nah, I never liked New Edition. I never liked any of that R&B music. Like never. It was too like girly for me, man. My brother would go around singing on "I'll love you," blah blah blah. I was like, I wasn't on that, man. I was like, man. What do you think about rap in the 80s? Is rap in the 90s better? Yeah, I think 90s rap is the golden age of rap. You know, the new stuff is kind of weird. I gotta be honest with you, not really vibing with it. The 80s stuff was kind of like pedestrian. The 90s stuff was when it was like you had to come with lyrics, you know. And I remember being at the lunch table, you know, and people hitting beats, and you had to jump in, and you had to hold your own, and you know, then the girls started getting into it, and it just became like this obsessive thing where everybody had to rap. You know what I mean? Like, and now I listen to the people who are like famous now. I'm like, man, there's a girl in lunchroom that could kill these people. You know what I mean? But a lot of it is just the pendulum swinging. Like, you can only get super lyrical for so long before people want something else and it appeals to something else. But you know, yeah, but you know, I'm not really a fan of celebrating the death of anybody. So that's you know, wow, making a song about the guy being dead. I mean, that's some next level shit, guys. Holy moly. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. All this mumble stuff sounds the same. Yeah, I mean, have you heard of Cold? My favorite album of the year is Spider. Yeah. 13 Ways to Bleed on Stage was one of my favorite records from way back in the day. I was a fan of Cold for sure. The View celebrates his death. Can you react to Pearl Jam Light Years? It's a masterpiece. I'm sure we will. I'm a big Pearl Jam fan, actually. It was like the biggest discovery I made last year when we did, you know, those themed weeks when we did Grunge Week. Have you ever listened to Andy McKee? I don't know who that is, so probably not. Probably not. Have you heard Mets? No, I don't know who that is. What's up, Rosie Clown? Can we get a Cole reaction someday? Yes. Vin, do you have a band? Yes. One of my bandmates was actually in the room about 20 minutes ago. What's up? I did my part. The lyrics for me are as important. First rap I heard was Lost Poets, Great Words. Eddie Vedder, insane man, love his voice, and his buddies are all his buddies are dead. Yeah, yeah, man. That must be a really eerie thing that all those people that he came up with are basically dead. You know, it's kind of like, yeah, it's rough stuff. Really rough stuff. Do you like the band Semblant? I've never heard of the band Semblant, so I probably would like them though if they're symphonic, for sure. What are your thoughts on psychics? My thoughts on psychics are that most of them are probably very good cold readers, and some of them are probably tapped into another dimension that gives them advantages and sights that we don't have yet. That's what I think of them. I honestly can't believe he's still here. Yeah, I know. Although there was something about him that was still kind of more stable than everybody else. I don't know. Like, Kurt always just looked troubled. I don't know. I can't call it. I mean, I'm saying that after all those people died. So, I mean, I just don't know. I don't know. Will you ever do a Volbeat reaction? Yes, I will. We will do a Volbeat reaction for sure. Have you heard all the drama going on with Soundgarden and Chris Cornell's widow and the Lost Soundgarden album that's in legal limbo? No. That's a tough one. It says like Kobe's wife, I guess, is getting sued by his parents. Like that stuff is just so distasteful to me. Like, the vultures surrounding after somebody's dead. I don't care what side it is, just gross. Especially my obvious inclination is that the wife gets everything, right? Like, I don't know. It's crazy stuff. Who do you think won in the Nas versus Jay-Z battle? Yeah, to me it wasn't even close. Ether was like, it was like, if you look at the battle raps now, like the actual battle raps for these guys battle rap for a career, if you look at those guys and then you look at Ether, it's like, that's not really, I don't know. I didn't really think Ether was that impressive lyrically, so I thought Jay-Z won that by a mile, but what do I know? Tell men why you believe in God. Tell men. I don't know if I have a specific gendered reason for why I believe in God. If you could rephrase that question, I might be able to help you. Max Kellerman says Jay-Z. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like I said, I've heard more complex lyrical takedowns at the lunchroom at Truman High School than Ether. But, what can you say? Yeah, I mean, smarten up. Nas went out 4 albums in 10 years. I can divide. That's one, let's say, every two. Two of them shits was due. One of them was the other was Illmatic. That's a one hot album every 10-year average. And that's just lame. Like, that's something where I look at that and I go, I could have never came up with that. You know what I mean? Like, there were so many times lyrically, you listen to Biggie, Big Pun, whoever. Pun was another one. Where, like, I had to rewind that and go, holy shit, what did this guy just say? There was nothing like that on Ether. It was like, with whiskers like a rat compared to beans, you're whack. Like, really? Like, I don't know. Are you invested in cryptocurrencies? No, but I feel like that's going to be one of those things where I kick myself after. I actually had a crypto guy reach out to me yesterday, actually. So, I don't know yet. If I'm an image bearer of God, does that mean God is also very ugly? It might Bradley puppies, because Isaiah 53, and speaking of Christ, who's God in the flesh, says he had no beauty that we should desire him. So you're in good company if you think you're ugly. There's a Soulfly song that dissed Jay-Z. I need to know this song. Nas destroyed Jay-Z, but I have a weird anti-Jay-Z bias. At least like 1.5 Nas albums, I can't think of a good Jay-Z song. You can't think of a good Jay-Z song. Money Cash Hoes wasn't a good Jay-Z song for rap. If I Should Die wasn't a good song. Friend or Foe wasn't a good song. What are you talking about? Jay-Z had some classical bangers. What do you mean? Jigga what? Jigga who? What do you mean? You guys are some of the best, most open-minded people on YouTube when it comes to music. Not many people are like y'all. Oh, I appreciate that. I appreciate that for sure. What if Moses had schizophrenia? I wouldn't be surprised. What do you think of Varg VK? I don't know how to pronounce Varg's last name. That Christians rode to Scandinavia centuries ago and ruined their Nordic culture. Well, I don't think that's just a historical fact, right? That's not something you can contest. I think that Christianity is a conquering religion. Especially me as a post-millennialist, I believe that the Christian faith is going to dominate the world one day. The question is how? And my answer is the biblical model is you lay down your life for your enemies and you take up your cross for your enemies and you compel them. Paul said the love of Christ compels us. So the way to conquer the world is through self-sacrificial love. That's going to be extremely painful to accomplish. And I just think that the Christian church throughout the ages has demonstrated that when we get a little taste of power, it's kind of like the ring, right? Like we can't not use it. And I think that, and that's one of the reasons why I still think that we have thousands and thousands of years of world history left, because we need to learn how to manage power, and the way you manage power most of the time is not using it. So I agree with Varg on that. I don't think that that's something where that can be disputed. Am I going to get the COVID vaccine? Probably not. And that's not because of me. That's because of Sori. Sori doesn't want me to get it. So there you go. I remember when Bitcoin was a fraction of a penny. Should have spent $1. Yeah, I always feel like I'm sitting on Bitcoin. I'm like, I probably should invest in it even now still. Oh, Dead Presidents. Dead Presidents is actually one of my favorite rap songs of all time. Ben Webb once again demonstrates he doesn't know what he's talking about. A post-millennialist believes that Christianity is going to essentially be the majority report religion on the planet, and that things are going to get progressively better and better. If there is a God, then he knows me very well, he knows very well what he would get as he made me, and he is in no position to complain if I never praise him. Yeah, Rule, but you'll be in a condition to complain if you don't praise him. That's the problem. Vin, do you have a favorite 40 Below Summer song? 40 Below Summer sounds so familiar to me. I'm actually going to YouTube them right now because that sounds so familiar and I don't know where that came from. 40 Below Summer. I don't recognize any of these videos, but I do recognize the name. I'm not sure. Was Sori a JW? No, Sori was never a JW. Most channels just make some faces say wow and that's it. Vin and Sori at least put in some effort to appreciate the music and take it apart to understand. Well, I appreciate that. I just think that they're different reaction channels are trying to accomplish different things. So, much love to them, but we weren't really trying to copy them per se. But we weren't really trying to do anything. We were just doing it for fun. Do you think Africans got to South America before the Europeans? I haven't read up on that enough to know. Why didn't the Sori want you to get the vaccine? I don't understand the logic. I don't understand the logic necessarily either, Dave. And if you could talk to her, that'd be great. Talk to her and see if she'll listen to you. She's definitely not going to listen to me. Christianity has had great propaganda in the past, as in taking existing holidays and rebranding, which is not to say that God doesn't exist. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of half right. But sure. I wear a ring with the Lord's Prayer written on it. I'm a believer. That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. Thank you very much, Mr. Dreams. Please check Steve T's channel. He's a modern metal gent guitarist, but his videos are hilarious. Yeah, I'll check them out. Soulfly, in memory of and since I slaughter holler, I'm there. I holler murder on Sean Carter. No honor, note with robbers. Since I prayed to my grandfather, my conscience isn't bothered by how I get my dollars. Whoa. Okay. If we all acted Christ-like, we live in Roman communes. Christianity, in some sense, requires the end of capital as a concept. Prosperity gospel is unbiblical. I'm not certain that you're completely right, Ben, but I think you're more right than wrong, and I think I'd much rather the Roman commune thing, especially with my lifestyle. I would be completely comfortable in that. Thoughts on Thomas Sill? I mean, he's all right. There have always been Thomas Sills all throughout American history. I'm trying to be very, what do you call it here? Bless up from Toronto. Fashal, really appreciate your points on the importance of self-awareness. Appreciate that, Gutter Gods. I'm trying to get there. That's one of the, I don't know, maybe byproducts or vices of being on camera a lot. You can watch yourself and go, holy shit, okay, I understand why people are mad about this or mad about that, right? Like, sometimes I'll jump in the comment section and things like that, and I'm like, how the hell did you get that from that? Sometimes they'll say, timestamp it. They'll timestamp it, and I'll look at it, and I go, okay, I know what I meant here, but I can definitely see based on X, Y, and Z why a person would take it that way. So self-awareness has actually been increasing a lot since we started the channel. By that statement, there is no such thing as free will, praise me or burn forever. Well, no, that's not what I was saying. What I was saying is that God has constructed the universe in such a way that we are built to praise things when we're happy. So, if I have a friend and he sends me, a Borknagar CD or whatever, he's sending that to me because he's experiencing something that brings him joy, and he's sharing that with me because he wants me to have the same experience as him. And so if I say, oh my God, the bassist from that band is the greatest, you have to listen to this guy, you've never heard anybody play bass like this guy. Am I praising that guy? Sure. But the praise is coming from a place of joy and happiness that listening to that music gave to me. And so the praise is just a logical overflow of what happens when you enjoy something. So when I say that, God isn't complaining that you're not praising him, and I say that's your problem, I'm not saying that as in, when this is over, God's going to get you for not praising him. What I'm saying is that means that you're not experiencing the ultimate joy that can be found in this universe, which is obviously being in close proximity to God. Now, obviously, as a Christian, that's going to be what I say. That's going to be my worldview. But that wasn't me saying, oh, if you don't praise God, he's going to burn you forever. I'm pretty much right where C.S. Lewis is in thinking that the people in heaven have always been there and the people in hell have always been there. So that's my take on it. Well, that's actually a George MacDonald statement, but you get it. Neo-pagans like Varg mangle history. The Christianization of Scandinavia was very complex. There was genuine appeal for both peasants and people in power. Well, yeah, I don't think anything. I think you're right, but I don't think anything is as simple as good guys versus bad guys in history. What I do know though is that I give Christians very little room when it comes to violence. So, I just hold Christians to a much higher standard when it comes to the application of violence than anybody else. So that's where I'm at with it. Hello to everyone in the village. Ian Aspie in the house. How do you separate cause and effect, power of will, and divine intervention? Well, there's this doctrine called concurrence, if you want to be super technical, that states that God, men, and angels act simultaneously, but that their intentions in a given thing are different. And that God's intentions for an action are always good, Satan's intentions for an action are always bad, and man's intentions for any given action are a mixture of the two, depending on what team they've decided to play on. There's an obscure example of this in the Bible, and then there's also a very, very obvious and popular one. The obscure example of concurrence, and it's often, unfortunately, many of my atheist friends believe that this is a biblical contradiction, and then I have to explain it to them. But there's this incident in King David's life where he numbers the fighting troops, right? And the narrator in 1 Kings says, and the Lord rose up against David saying, count the number of the troops, right? But then when you go to 1 Chronicles, it says, and Satan rose up against David saying, count the number of the troops. And obviously David does it. It results in this giant plague. A bunch of people die. Jesus is about to destroy the city. God the Father says, stop, stay your hand, don't kill everybody. And so that's an example of concurrence where Yahweh is willing something, the devil's willing something, and then David makes a decision, and all of it is happening at the same time in experiential history. So that's one example. The biggest, most obvious example of concurrence would be, Acts chapter 4, where it says, truly in this city they marshaled themselves against your holy servant Jesus, and they talk about Pontius Pilate, the Jews and the Gentiles came together to do whatever your will and power determined beforehand should happen. So we know that Satan inspired Judas to do the betrayal. We saw that in John chapter 18. Satan entered Judas. So Satan was a player in the crucifixion. We know that Pontius Pilate and the Jews were players in the crucifixion. We know that the Roman guards, soldiers, were players in the crucifixion. And we also know that God the Father orchestrated the entire event from a biblical perspective. It's not that God knew that Jesus was going to be crucified. It says that your will and your power determined beforehand should happen. So God effectuated the crucifixion of Christ. Now, obviously, from a Christian perspective, God's intentions were completely and totally pure because he was doing it to save the world. Satan's intentions were completely and totally evil because he was doing it to destroy Christ. And man's intention, whether Pontius Pilate or whoever, was a mixture of the two, right? So Pilate wanted to let him go, but didn't let him go because he wanted to save his own skin because he was already in political trouble, yada, 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 yada. So that's an example of concurrence. There you go. Just pointing out that the Christianization of Scandinavia was not particularly violent. A genuine example of violent Christianization was the conversion of the Saxons under Charlemagne. Yeah. Your point is very, very, very well taken. I just think that, and I'm particularly sensitive to Christian violence because, we're so disconnected from the effect that we've had on the world, on the planet, right? You hear about this drone bomb killed X and Y people, and Christian people in general are so disconnected from the violence that we've inflicted on people that I'm some would probably say oversensitive to it for sure. Have you been watching WandaVision? No, I'm waiting for WandaVision to like finish out so that I can just watch, binge watch it. That's my goal. Been thinking about what we discussed, Jesse. Can you please explain further the point you were making about you can't explain logic without logic? I didn't get the point you were making. Vin, would you consider most politicians satanic in the way they disregard others? For example, Ted Cruz. Yeah, I mean, Ted Cruz. I was out on Ted Cruz in 2016. He made the statement, we're going to go over there and we're going to make sand glow. And all the pro-life Republicans were, yay! And I was out. I was out after that. He talked about carpet bombing the Middle East. I mean, look, you can't get any more satanic than celebrating the death of innocent people. I'm not even comfortable with people making songs about Rush Limbaugh, and he was far from an innocent person. But we're talking about murdering kids and date farmers, etc., who've done us no harm, and you have all these people celebrating. I was already out on Ted Cruz after that, and that's obviously, if there's anything in correspondence to reality in the Christian religion, then obviously that moment when he talked about making sand glow and all the other bullshit he was talking about was obviously a very satanic moment. So I was out on Ted Cruz after that. I believe in God, but my problem is the books. Books written by winners, and the Romans were in power at the time. I don't know if I can trust all this. Well, Pat, that's a good point. One of the funny kind of back and forths that Perkinos and I have had in obscure comment sections is that in the New Testament, there are some pretty embarrassing stories for the main guys in our religion. So Peter gets portrayed as a terrible coward who denies his Lord. The men are portrayed as hiding, fearing for their lives, while the women boldly go out in public to, take care of the body of Christ. You've got women who are the first discoverers and the first preachers of the resurrected Christ. And I think those are very, very difficult to explain away. Me personally, I've never heard a cogent explanation where if I was on the other side goes, yeah, let's make up a story that this guy who was supposed to be the Messiah who conquered the world and set up a Jewish super ethno state, because that was their vision of what the Messiah was supposed to do. Let's remix the story and say, no, he's actually supposed to die naked on a Roman cross, crushed under Roman power. And then let's say that women discovered him. And then let's not make it like high class woman. Let's make it a woman who'd already been afflicted with 7 demons. And you see, this was mocked very, very early in the Christian religion. It was a very difficult thing to explain. So my point is, I understand the whole, I don't trust the Bible is written by men thing, and the winners usually write the books. I'm with you. But I think if you looked at the New Testament, it doesn't strike you as that type of a document. The other thing I say to people all the time when you're talking about God, look, it's just like any relationship. There are things about me and Sori's relationship where I'm like, okay, I'm not cool with that. We're going to have to work that out, but we'll figure it out later, right? So in any relationship, it's like that. There are certain things where I'm like, this particular attribute of who you are is important enough to me to where I'd say, okay, I'm willing to overlook X, Y, and Z to be in a relationship. And we all do this when we have relationships. And, obviously, if God is truly a perfect being, which I believe he is, there are none of those that he has. But he does condescend to allow us to begin the relationship that way. So that's what I'd say. about that. Good question, though, for sure. Any thoughts on Christian anarchism? I am extremely interested in anarchism because some of the smartest, most intelligent people that I've met in my life, and I've met some really smart ones, are sympathetic to the anarchist perspective. And so I'm extremely curious. You know, when the whole Chaz Chop thing went on last year, I was disappointed because I felt like it was a time for anarchism to really show its stuff. But because it wasn't very well thought out, it kind of became a laughingstock. And that bothered me. Of course, a person could say, well, anarchism by its very nature can never be well planned or well thought out because that would create an automatic hierarchy structure, yada, yada, yada. And you know what? That might be true. But I don't know enough about anarchism to say either way. The only thing I say about anarchism right now is that I'm very intrigued by it, especially a Christian version of it, which after listening to Zonia BM Fan, I don't know if Perk or Ben Webb are anarchists. I'm not sure. I don't think Ben Webb could be an anarchist because he's too much of a communist to be an anarchist. But anyway, I was disappointed with the Chaz Chop thing because I really felt like there was an opportunity to show it. But you know, who knows? Maybe that's the entire point. Hey, Jay's in the house. Another bandmate's here. That's awesome. Communism is a form of anarchism. I don't know how. I don't know. I'd have to go to my phone a friend guy. Any advice on how to deal with workplace bullying? It depends on the type of bullying and it depends on who's doing the bullying. If it's a peer, obviously you escalate them to your, direct supervisor. If it's a supervisor, then you'd have to go the HR route. Or you may consider, looking elsewhere. Lord Baltimore, acolyte of Baphomet. I just don't understand how every Christian that acts unchristian is considered satanic, and yet all Satanists, myself included, are more moral, cordial, and accommodating than those said Christians. Well, the majority of Satanists that I've met are awesome people that I genuinely have affection for. We actually watched we got a copyright strike for it and we deserved it. We watched a documentary called Hail Satan. And it was a great documentary. It really showed a lot of these Satanists were taking it to the next level, man. They were doing stuff around the community, helping each other out. I just think there's a lot of people who are ignorant about, I was watching this comment thread and the person was talking about critical race theory and they were basically saying, I don't need to know about critical race theory. I don't need to read any of it to know it's wrong. And I think that attitude just kind of permeates modern evangelicalism right now. And so, the minute they hear Satan or Satanist, that's it. They're not gonna say, are you LaVeyan? Are you theistic, atheistic? They're just gonna go, oh, Satanist, that means you're bad. Okay. That hasn't been my experience. I'm sure there are bad Satanists. Yeah, I'm sure there are. And this channel tends to draw in internally very sensitive people. So you're going to get, it doesn't matter what people believe across the board. People are going to be generally we're a pretty close-knit community. I mean, we've had some really serious moments together as a community. So it might be a heuristic where, yeah, you're always going to run into good Satanists in this form, but maybe there's a secret cabal of bad Satanists. I'm sure there are. I just haven't met them. But either way, the main issue is that we need to listen to each other and listen to what each other's saying. And that's one of the reasons why we got the Hail Satan movie. We bought it and we watched it together. And then we were actually watching it live with a Satanist. So I was able to stop it and say, "Hey, Blake, man, is this, and he was able to explain it to me, and then we would move on. And there were things we agreed and disagreed on. It was really, really good. It's really sad that that video got taken down. I mean, it deserved to be taken down because it was completely copyright material. But it was probably one of the best conversations I've ever had on the forum, I think. I had another conversation with Zonia about anarchism that went on for about 45 minutes, which was also a fun conversation. Vampire, most of my so-called Christian family have wished death on everyone they had ever interacted. Any news on Sayla? Yeah, Sayla is actually sleeping right now. So, yeah. Veritas et Caritas. Are you a perk? Are you a what do you call it? Are you an anarchist? When Jesus asks us not to fall in love with the world, what does that mean? Well, there's no text in the gospel where Jesus says don't fall in love with the world. He does say go into all the world. Being in the world but not of the world, I don't think it's a biblical maxim, but it's not a biblical passage. I don't think there's any biblical passage that uses that terminology. But on a technical level, when the Bible talks about the world in the negative sense, it's talking about sinful humanity under the leadership of Satan, and then the satanic systems that get created out of that. So that's the world. So it says, don't love the world or anything in the world, because friendship with the world is enmity towards God. Obviously, they're not using world in the same way that John 3:16 is using the term world. When it's talking about world in that context, it's talking about an actual system. And there is an antichrist, anti-God, and I would say anti-human system in the world. And one of the ways to check as to whether or not it's a good world or a bad world is what it produces, and it always produces death. So any system that leads to mass death and mass slaughter or mass oppression is part of the world that we should reject and fight with our entire being. And I do believe we're going to win that fight, hence why I'm a post-millennialist. I'm not an anarchist. I think states are necessary. My beliefs are a bit syncretic and mainly influenced by social democracy, Georgism, and civic republicanism. Yeah, I figured you'd have a pretty nuanced worldview on that, and I'm probably with Perkinos, whatever Perkinos is on. Especially when he becomes a Christian again, inshallah. Any Cradle of Filth coming down the pike? Yes, there is Cradle of Filth coming down the pike for sure. Is the devil necessary for God? No. God is necessary for the devil, but not the other way around. Vin, you're wearing yourself. That's funny as heck. Yes, I am wearing myself. How real is that? I also said that I wrote the second greatest rap song in all history, and I completely believe that. I just don't think I'm ever going to release it. Do you think the humans behave worse now compared to when God wiped us out with a flood? No, I don't believe that humans are worse now than the flood. I actually think we're better now than with the flood. How did you get introduced to metal music? Woodstock 99. DMX was supposed to be performing, so I turned on MTV and I caught the last 45 seconds of Got the Life, and that was it. I was completely blown away. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. I went upstairs and found the metal station, and I just stayed in my room until I could hear that song again, that Got the Life song again. and I passed out, but I woke up like halfway in the middle of it, taped it, and then I just became obsessed with Korn after that. It was just insanely. I was just. It literally changed my life. It changed everything about me, like almost immediately. Yeah. Vin, do you believe the Antichrist walks among us to this day? No, I believe the Antichrist died in around 69 AD. What metal band blows you away? Korn blew me away. Slipknot blew me away. Gojira was really the last band where I was like, oh my God. And you could tell, like, we saw Gojira at the Slipknot show, and you had Behemoth, Slipknot, everybody was on the side of the stage watching those guys play, and they were playing at like 4:30 p.m. Like, those guys are, it's something, it's very hard to describe their music, but Gojira is the last band where I was like, oh my God, this is insane. Nero, yes. I believe Nero is the beast of Revelation. Do you think it's interesting that all the most questions you get are related to Christianity or religion, considering the channel is mainly just a mental reaction channel? I do think it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. Your interview with Head, yeah. After the interview, because we did two, we did the second one when Orion was born in the hospital. After we cut recording, he stayed on for like another hour. He's like, yo, man, we really got to connect, blah, blah, blah. And at the time, I was like, yeah, man, sure. You know, he's like, yeah, so we're coming to this show on this date. Here's my publicist. Make sure she sets you up with tickets and passes. You know, you can hang out with me on stage and yada yada. I was like, yeah, man, yeah, cool, whatever. I was like, this guy's so busy, yada yada yada. And then we go to the show, and there was a little like quiet time in the set or whatever, and I was like, yo, Brian. He's like, yo. He's like, come on. Like, he stops playing. He's like, come on up. Get on stage beside me. And then Sori got us there, and there I was on stage, and I'm like 10 feet away. There's Brian. It was bananas. It was the greatest metal moment in my entire life, man. Like, you could have just shot me in the head and killed me right there. I was so happy. It was unbelievable. And I was like, thanks, man. Great experience. I'm taking Sori to leave. He's like, hey, can you guys hang out for a little bit? Went back to his room for 2 hours just chilling. It was insane. It was absolutely insane. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. The Head interview was awful. Two dudes high on their own fumes, talking as if their delusions are actually true. Yeah. Vin, is evil a force or just the absence of good? I think evil is both. Oh, well, I'll do it anyway because I don't have anything on the agenda. So, I don't look at evil as its own independent force. So goodness. So the guy goes up to Jesus, says, good teacher, what do I need to do to get to heaven? Jesus says, why do you call me good? There's nobody good but God. Okay. Jesus is saying there's nobody good but God. How does that work? Because so-and-so is called righteous. This angel is called righteous. But here's Jesus saying there's nobody good but God. And so for me, the conclusion I came into in that text is to say that omnipotence, being completely powerful, is a exclusive divine attribute that God then delegates to his created beings. So the reason I'm able to walk and talk and have the energy to do so is because God has given me some of his infinite energy to work. Same thing with knowledge, right? Same thing with all the other attributes. So goodness is not something that can exist independently from God. It's an attribute of God that if he doesn't constantly pump into you, you are going to, spiritual entropy is going to take place, and you're going to default to badness, not as an independent force, but in the way that, mold ends up on bread after you leave it out without a preservative for, a day or two, right? And so when I think about that, explains a lot of things, right? That explains why Satan, who was in a completely good environment, could fall. You could just say God didn't give him his daily shot of goodness. And what's interesting is in the Bible, it says that God charges he doesn't even put his trust in the angels, basically. That the angels are capable of wrongdoing. And then when you get to Timothy, Paul talks about the elect angels. That there's some angels that are chosen, some angels that are not. So from my perspective, you have chosen men and chosen angels. Chosen men are saved redemptively. God, we fall and then God redeems us. And angels are saved preventively, in the sense that God prevents their goodness ration from getting below a certain standard to where they would sin. So from that perspective, I would say that evil is a lack of good. It's what happens when a sentient being doesn't get its daily shot of goodness from God. All created beings are going to default to evil if God doesn't do that. So that's the answer to that question. Hey Vin, I'm from Australia. Love a Christian that likes being challenged. I appreciate that, Luke. I really, really, really appreciate that. It's fun getting challenged. A Muslim friend of mine made a post that was talking about Jannat al-Firdaus. So I looked it up. The Muslim concept of heaven is more complex than I thought. Do you have any thoughts? Yeah, Jannat al-Firdaus. Firdaus is the highest level of heaven you can get to in Islamic theology. And look, Islam is a works righteousness religion. And so there's an entire complex of systems as to how you can attain to the highest levels of Jannah. So Jannat, that AT is a plural. It creates more gardens, right? And so there are multiple gardens, multiple heavens, and based on how good you are with Islam, is what determines what level of Jannah you end up in. God's message to man is through the Bible, and the Bible is where all forms of Christianity comes from. Everything else is man-made. I don't believe that all forms of Christianity come from the Bible, because if that were the case, the Roman Catholics wouldn't have been burning at the stake over sola scriptura, right? So I'd half agree. As said, it always comes back to the question, why the Christian God? I understand the cultural aspect. This solves nothing in this question. Oh, well, why the Christian God is easy, because nobody believes that Thor is a historical person. And everybody believes that Muhammad is a historical person, but nobody is claiming that Muhammad physically and bodily rose from the dead. So Christianity has, I've talked about this. Like, there's a big difference between Jesus and Thor. Christianity's advantage is that it actually has a historical person where a supernatural claim has been made. And then when I look at the seats and Laban of the people of the time, and I look at the change that has happened, and then I look at the expectations of the people of the time, and I put all that together, I'd say there's enough for a reasonable person to believe that Jesus rose from the dead. So I'd say that's why. How about UFOs, Vin? Yeah, that's something I was looking at 2 weeks ago before I ran into Hoffman. UFOs are extremely fascinating to me. And a lot of people, I don't know if people know this or not, but our government last year admitted that UFOs exist and that our folks have interacted with them. So, I mean, that's an actual admission. That's a fact. That's not something I'm making up. So, I'm extremely interested in the UFO phenomena for sure. Nice story, Vin, but you'll need proof of your claims. Proof of what? What claim that Jesus was an actual historical person? I think I could do a pretty good job demonstrating that, or that the first Christians were preaching a resurrection of Christ. I think that's pretty easy to ascertain. What exactly in what I said earlier is something I need to prove. There actually are Muhammad mythicists, and it is some of the wackiest stuff I've seen. Some folks really need to learn more about history. Yeah, when I say nobody believes that Muhammad never existed, I'm talking about no credible person. But you're right. There are Muhammad mythicists, there's Jesus mythicists. You know, Aaron Ra, unfortunately, is one of them. That type of thing. Given your metaphor about evil being the absence of good being injected from God, do you believe that God is only external, or that good is only external? Do you believe that good can be generated within a person? I think that good, by necessity, if I'm right, because God is spirit, he's a non-physical being, that good must originate from inside the person. Yeah. What thoughts do you have on Gnosticism or the first heretics and by extension the Nakhdamadi scriptures? Well, I think the Nakhdamadi is very important, historically speaking. I do not believe that Christians should only read the Bible. I think Christians should familiarize themselves with the literature 300 years before and after the New Testament era. I'm a big believer in that, because it gives you an arm around understanding the New Testament in a much better way. Obviously, I'm a classical, Nicene Christian, so the Gnostics, I would say, were absolute formal and material heretics, and obviously, heresy is something you want to avoid. So that's where I am. What do you think attracts sensitive people to your channel? And what is virtuous about being sensitive? If someone rejects sensitivity, are they a bad person who should be ostracized? Well, sensitive, look, I look at emotions in much the same way that I look at the physical world. Why do I have nerves? Well, I have nerves because I'm absent-minded. I have ADD, and I'm thinking about 15 different things at the same time. So God gives me nerves so that when I put my hand by a hot stove, if my nerves didn't say, hey guy, you're ruining us, you're about to lose your hand, I would lose my hands a million times over, right? So from that perspective, being sensitive is an inherently good thing if we presuppose that having your hand not set on fire is a good thing. So when I talk about sensitive people, what's cool about emotional sensitivity is that not only can you feel it for yourself, but you can also feel it for other people. And I think there is something inherently virtuous in being able to lock on and find similarity between your pain and the pain of somebody else, and knowing that you would want relief from your pain, so you want to relieve other people's pain. So I think in that respect, it's virtuous. Now, you can have in the physical world an overactive nerve centers that will make your life a living hell and will make everybody around you miserable because they can't touch you, right? Like if I've got like hyperactive nerves, people can't hug me, people can't get close to me. And there's a lot of people who are emotionally like have hyperactive emotional nerves that make them impossible to be with. So sometimes being overly sensitive is a vice and not a virtue. I don't believe that we should ostracize people. It takes a lot for me to ostracize somebody. There was a guy on here. The guy was a legitimate Nazi, terrible guy, horrible individual. And people always wanted me to get rid of him, and he would say all these terrible things. I never got rid of him. He eventually got banned from YouTube, and I have my suspicions on how it happened. Me personally, I just, look, man, if somebody is part of our community, we can warn them, we can do X, Y, and Z thing. But if they're being nasty and horrible, there's a reason for it. And I think that we need to be a lot more patient before we ostracize and excise people from our community. So that's kind of where I land with it. If you read all 4 books of the Torah, Old and New Testament and Quran, you will find one name where all come from. So we're all brothers and sisters of one God that I believe. So why are we fighting? Well, I don't know if anybody's fighting here. I don't interpret disagreement as necessarily a bad thing. I think disagreement sometimes is actually a healthy thing. I'm not sure that we're fighting about it. Do you think that the God of the Old Testament is the same as the God of the New Testament? If so, why change of mind, not trying to be a jerk? No, Lena, I don't think you're being a jerk. I don't believe that the God of the New Testament and the Old Testament are different gods. The Old Testament God is one of my favorite individuals in the universe. When I was a kid, I didn't really start hitting the New Testament until 13, 14, 15. Prior to that, I was just all Old Testament. I'll confess, I thought Jesus was boring. Moses was parting Red Seas. He was like bringing it to Pharaoh. He was on some gangster shit. Jesus was kind of like, love everybody here. Let me make everybody some bread, blah, blah, blah. You guys know my penchant toward violence, so I wasn't really a fan of Jesus and letting people hit him and things like that. So I hung out in the Old Testament. That's where I built my relationship with God, and I have been convinced of God's particular love for me and care for me largely by my reading of the Old Testament. Remember, Jesus is God, and the God that all the New Testament Christians were appealing to was the Old Testament God. They didn't have a New Testament. So this is a very strange idea that God kind of took a chill pill in the New Testament. But, I would argue that there are some aspects of theology in God that are much harsher in the New Testament than in the Old Testament. You very rarely hear any threats about the afterlife in the Old Testament, even though it's 2 and 3 times longer and has more volume than the New Testament. The New Testament, forget about it, man. You can't even get out of the first 5 chapters before you're hearing scary shit about the afterlife and things like that. And so I just think that there are so many beautiful moments in the Old Testament where God is just incredibly gracious and merciful and is portrayed as weeping over destroyed cities and things of that nature. So no, they're the exact same God. The old God was the first terrorist. I mean, I don't know. I don't know about that. I mean, look, if you make yourself an enemy of God and you're at war with God, then it would be wise to be terrified. But I'm not sure that makes God a terrorist, though. Is there a scripture that states that Jesus actually said he was God? Sure, Luke. John chapter 5, the Father judges no one, but has given all judgment to the Son, so that all may honor the Son just as they honor the Father. Anybody who's claiming that they are to be honored to the same degree that the Most High is to be honored, obviously is making a divine claim for themselves, I'd say. Who do you think created the dinosaurs? I think God created everything. So that's what I believe. Hey Vin, here's a good psychological question. Do you believe that we all have free will, and why? Yes and no. I am not a libertarian. I'm a compatibilist when it comes to the nature of the will. So that's where I'm from. God weeping over cities he destroyed isn't mercy or grace. It's God being a moral failure. I mean, you could look at it that way. I mean, that's fine. I'm just telling you my experience with God in the Old Testament. The main problems with the Bible is it was written by man. It was written way after Jesus' death. Blue, 2/3 of the Bible was written before Jesus came to the earth. So I'm not sure what you're talking about. 2A for Christians. No, I don't believe that Christians should be packing guns. By the way, love that God of the Old Testament made many people an atheist. Well, no, sin creates that. That's when sinful human beings deign to put themselves in judgment over the Almighty. So, do what you will with that one. Why kill the civilian when it's the Pharaoh that's wrong, aka terror? God has never killed an innocent person ever. So, I'd agree with you. If God was killing innocent people, then I'd be with you. But he's never killed an innocent person. Secondly, all of our lives are on loan from God. And I've yet to find a person who can tell me why God owes any of us life. Life is his principle and his possession on loan to us. So on what basis is God morally required to continue to give me or you or my children or anybody? Why is he obligated to continue to allow any of us to live? Moses got a gray area. It's true. But yes, the New Testament was written 30 years after Jesus. Okay, BC. Who are you saying that to? Healthcare is a right, not a privilege. I agree. The guy who sacrificed his daughter on orders from God. Well, Sammy, again, that would be terrible. But there is nobody in the Bible who sacrificed their daughter on orders from God. The only father who actually sacrificed his child was God himself. So there's that. Damn, that was a BS argument. Read some books. What argument? It isn't a loan if I didn't ask for it. You can't force people into transactions like that. Life is slavery by that perspective. Well, Ben, that doesn't make any logical sense. I can't go and break the speed limit and then say, well, I didn't agree to this law. It's like, you're here. You're using the highway. Ben, you're here. You're using the principle of God's life that he gave you and the very, very sharp mind that he gave you. So you can't have it both ways, my guy. Regarding the Second Amendment, Jesus told in Luke 22:36-88, Jesus told them to sell their cloaks, buy two swords. How do you interpret that? Jesus did not tell them to sell their cloak and buy two swords. He said, sell your cloak and buy the sword, because not so that you could defend yourself. That's not what the text says. The text says, for this scripture must be fulfilled in me, and he was numbered with the transgressors. Then it says, one of them said, Lord, here are two swords. And then Jesus says, that's enough. Well, let's think this through. There's 12 guys there because Judas left. So there's 11 disciples in Jesus. There's 12 guys there. There's a Roman contingent of 600 soldiers and some temple guards and priests. So probably 1,000 people are on their way to the garden. And the Second Amendment Christians want us to believe that Jesus thought that two swords versus 1,000 people was going to be good for self-defense. I don't think self-defense is the point of the swords in that text. Just doing the math. I think there's another reason for the text, and it's not mysterious. It's explicitly told in the text why Jesus told them to get swords. What's up, everyone? Been a while since I watched anybody's streams. Good to see you, big homie. Vin debated this one rather thoroughly in a previous debate with another Christian about and gun ocean. It's on their Facebook profile under videos. Yeah. Yeah. I think if we all not learn to live in peace and work together, we got bigger problems like a stone out of the universe. Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest concern, right? Is that we got to find a way to live in peace and harmony with one another and accept each other for who we are. And I think that that's been the hardest thing for human beings to do. You know, my family won't allow me to touch a gun. Good. I wish nobody touched guns ever again. So if our founding fathers didn't have guns, Brian, if your founding fathers didn't have guns, they probably would have had a much harder time keeping their slaves, right? So there's that. You should take the Second Amendment debate and upload it to MA. Really? I didn't really think there was a lot of people wanting to know the answer to that question, but I mean, if there's enough people that really care about it, I guess I'll upload it. What are your thoughts on evolution in the age of the earth as a Christian? I don't know much about evolution. I got one guy named Alec, and so, Christians will post something against evolution, but and don't take this the wrong way, but I don't care what the topic is. If the person hasn't done the commensurate research or doesn't have the credentials to speak on the topic, I have a hard time just taking what they say. So a lot of times Christians will say something about evolution. I'm like, oh, I never heard that before. So I'll go to Alec, because Alec is on his way to master's, if not a doctorate level in biology. So I'll ask him, and he'll say, no, this is X, Y, and Z thing. And I don't go back to the Christian and argue with them, because I understand it's a touchy topic. Evolution doesn't really do anything to me as a Christian either way, whatever side I come down on. Genesis 1 was not written to answer scientific questions. Genesis 1 was written to answer theological questions and to make theological arguments, not scientific ones. So, it's a category thing for me that I don't care. As far as the age of the earth, I believe the earth is, whatever, 8 billion years old or however long. I just generally go with the scientific consensus, unless there's something really crazy. Do you believe in the Trinity? Yes. Can we burn everything down and start from scratch? We can. I just don't think that that would help anyone. Because we'd still be here. Hitler made Poland peacefully give up their guns, and look what happened. So, Brian James, more people have been killed by unpeaceful people with guns than peaceful people, right? And peace out, Vin. Hope you know I have nothing but respect. Love your channel. Appreciate you, bro. A lot. What are your opinions of guns for hunting or for self-defense against wildlife? Do you think it would be unethical for a hunter to own a gun? Should they hunt with bows, if not at all? No, I think it's completely within the bounds of Scripture to have a gun for hunting and defending yourself against animals, so long as you're not abusing the privilege of hunting. I don't believe you can make a biblical case for sport hunting, just killing an animal for fun. I think there's some really serious passages in Scripture about doing that. But for survival and things like that, and to feed your family or to feed other people, then great. The Trinity as elucidated in the Council of Nicaea, one being three persons. I still can understand the fear of ARs when they talk about gun control. I mean, even if you're a Christian who said that God didn't make Adam and Eve from like a monkey. Vampire Me Too, thoughts on Twitter and cancel culture. Well, I said about 10 minutes ago, I think we should be very hesitant when it comes to canceling someone. And it should be the last option. But as far as Mr. Trump being canceled, I have no problem with that. As far as Amazon getting rid of Parler from their super servers, I have no problem with that. The stuff that happened with Gina Carano, I think, is insane. I think the vast majority of times that people have been offended to the point where somebody needs to be canceled is insane. I've been saying it for years. canceling Roseanne because she drunk tweeted something, all the rest of it. I just think that stuff is crazy. I have no idea how we're going to grow together as people if we keep shutting everybody up that has a contrary opinion. Donald Trump is an outlier because the man had 88 million followers, and the irrationality of some of the people that followed him were at a cult level. And, I've always said this. I don't believe Trump or AOC or any of these people are idiots. I think they're extremely intelligent. And Trump, among all people, knows how to manipulate social media. And so because of all that, I definitely support Trump being, quote, canceled. But Gina Carano and the other stuff, you've got to make a very, very, very strong case that people will die unless somebody gets canceled or something like that. And I don't think you can make that argument with Gina Carano or even Varg. Varg got canceled like a year and a half, 2 years ago. I was upset about that. Look, is he a racist? Is he a white supremacist? A European? I mean, I don't even think Varg is a white supremacist. When I listened to what he talked about, he was talking about he was a pan-European, very much the same way that Marcus Garvey was a pan-African, or Umar Johnson is a current pan-Africanist. I don't see how that makes you a white supremacist or a racist. There was a church recently, this like European heritage, like Asaratu or whatever it's called, and they were able to have like a only European church, people freaking out about that. I don't think that that's wrong. People divide themselves up among all types of different lines. And, that's part of the culture, and we should accept that. We should embrace that. But, we're not at the place where we have the maturity enough to get there. So that's my thoughts on cancel culture. Why do you think books like Enoch were left out of the canonized version? They were supposedly written BC, but they weren't part of the recognized Bible. We've come to... No, yeah, the pseudepigraphal stuff, right? Where a later author incarnates as the narrator of somebody back then was never looked upon by the Jewish people at the same level as, Genesis or Leviticus. Although there was an Enochian cult that lasted even into the time of Christ, where Enoch was the guy, like almost deified. But that was a small segment of people. Judaism as a whole never looked at that as an inspired text. And so as Christians, we pretty much adopted the Jewish canon book for book when we're looking at the Old Testament. So that's why. Is the Bible always right, or is it possible that liars and exaggerators added to it? I mean, it isn't written by God himself, but through messengers, and it isn't the only Bible in competition. I don't know what you mean by it isn't the only Bible in competition. I'd like you to elucidate that a little bit further. But obviously, as a Christian, I believe in verbal plenary inspiration, so I believe that everything in the Bible in the original is correct. You're doing very well, Vin. Thank you. I appreciate that. If God has a plan for everyone, then why do people die out of nowhere? Was their death all just part of the plan? And if it is that, does that mean God has killed innocent people? Well, I don't want to answer that question in a sort of throwaway fashion. But if the Bible is true, then God has never killed an innocent person. I think we have to. If we're gonna deal with the God of the Bible, great, but then we've got to if we're gonna do that, then we got to jump into the biblical universe. In a biblical universe, the principle of life is something that God freely gives to human beings and promises to take from us the moment that we sin. So, the fact that God continues to give me life, even though I've sinned, 780,000 times today. Indicates to me that God is overly merciful. The question really, if it's true that the wages of sin is death, if that is true, the real question is why is God letting anybody live on this planet if he says the wages of sin is death, but we all sin against him every day? Obviously, God's asleep at the wheel. What's going on? That should be the question. And I think that that's the more important question. I've watched many of Varg's videos and read much of his writing. He broad brushes ethnic and religious groups quite a bit and said some terrible things. Should he be canceled? Nah. He is poop, though. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't feel bad for people who get canceled in cancel culture. I just feel like we're so divided, and regular people have got to take our own self accountability for why we're divided. And the other thing is, I don't believe that unity is the ultimate goal. I think the Tower of Babel demonstrates very clearly that there are other principles that are higher than unity in God's mind. But my thing is, look, I have had disagreements with people. I disagreed about Trump, and then over time, my mind has changed about Trump. 2-3 years ago, I would have never read Marx. I would have never looked at Marx. But I have Marxists in this forum, and the funny thing about cancel culture is it works both ways. My religious right friends like to pretend that only people on the left are canceling. No, there's lots of canceling happening on both sides. And if I canceled, oh my God, this guy's a Marxist. I had a guy, I'm not going to name him, but he was on here justifying the violence of Antifa a couple of years ago, and I thought that was insane. I thought he was crazy. I still do. But I also wanted to have a conversation with him because I believe that most people have enough common grace to know, wait a second, this dude's talking about physically assaulting people. Holy shit, we can't do that. And I learned from that guy. And there were people that messaged me after and was like, yo, man, like, I was sympathetic to this group, but when I heard that guy talk, holy shit. And that's what we're supposed to do as brothers and sisters, iron sharpens iron, whatever you want to call it. So I think cancel culture really operates to keep the elites in a power position, because then they can point at the left or the right and say, oh my God, look how terrible they are. So then now their sins get overlooked by their group because everybody's so worried about getting canceled over here. And once again, the people at the top just get to hang out while the rest of us are fighting each other. So we have thrown rehabilitation out the window. Do something wrong, you're marred for life, unable to ever be redeemed. I would prefer to keep people around to learn from their mistakes and grow. Yeah. And and the thing is we have blind spots and horrific ideas too. I can't tell you how many people have said, look, bro, I was completely pro-life, and then pro-choice, and then I saw that debate. And people are like, I'm not saying I'm like a raging pro-lifer, but holy shit, you really, really made me think. I really have to, take stock of myself now and think things through a little bit more. Okay. Like that's how it's supposed to go. And I'm the same way with Marxism. Like, I'm never going to call myself a Marxist, I don't think, but you can't tell me that the man was completely crazy, didn't have really good points. I'm sorry, but if you've read any Marx, like, the man was brilliant. He was a brilliant dude who had really, really, really compelling argumentation and ideas. That's my opinion of Marx. Have you seen the movie The Passion of the Christ? Yes, I did see the movie, and that's my guy. I don't know what else to tell you. I love him. I just love him. It's my guy. I don't know who's brilliant or anti-Semitic, but do you believe that it would be bad or good to harness the good parts of socialism, such as free? Oh yeah, of course. I'm extremely, I think the posture of many people who call themselves socialists, and BM Fan always tells me, you're not a socialist, you're a democratic socialist. Okay. The posture is always that, like, socialists have to defend themselves. And I'm like, no, make the capitalist justify all the death that capitalism has created. Because that's an important conversation. I don't know that socialism is the ultimate answer. Yeah, Marx is a brilliant anti-Semite. Okay. So yeah, that's my take on it. Yeah, I'm almost done Das Kapital. I don't even tell people to read that book because it's such a complex book. It's not that I don't think people have the discipline to read it. I just think most people don't have a YouTube channel where, they put in 4 hours at the beginning or end of the day, and then the rest of the day is theirs. So, you know, I think it's a very, very big challenging read. Salutation to all dark sorcerers, Satanists, and people in the occult in this chat. Hail Ruddy. I don't want to be controlled anymore. Good. You weren't meant to be controlled by anyone but yourself and God. He had Jewish ancestry, but had some distasteful thing to say about Jews. Do you believe there are aliens, and if so, do you believe they were created by God? Yes, I believe in the beings that we call aliens, and yes, I believe they were created by God. Did you stop keto? Yes. We have socialism through taxes and capitalism through the market. It's not super hard. We can have both. Maybe. Inshallah. We'll see. In communism, the whole of the people are not supposed to be richer than the rest. Everyone is equally wealthy and equally poor. In socialism, the ones at the top regulate the outcome, and you have to place immense trust in those few. Capitalism exploits individual laziness. The bottom have control, but individually small amounts. Makes you wonder how the Bolshevik revolutionaries had the time to familiarize themselves with Das Kapital. I know. But, people back then had a lot more discipline than people now. I like God, I like Lucifer, and I like everyone. I don't hate anyone. Everyone should live, exist, and be happy. Well, that's good, Roddy. What's your... There's this breakfast cereal called O's. Let me see if I can get a picture. And that is my favorite breakfast cereal. It's the greatest thing God ever inspired human beings to make, in my opinion. I'm gonna see if I can put that in the thingamajiggy. I'm still trying to learn this stuff. I'm on game capture right now on my third Apple device. This is like our fourth Apple device. It's pretty ridiculous. Let me see if I can add. Let's see. Add image. Let's go to recents. There it is. Boom. This, ladies and gents, is my favorite cereal. O's. So good. But every time I have a cavity, it really, it's very painful to eat, but it's worth it. So there you go. That's Vin's favorite cereal. Finally got 24 hours of power. Texas will survive. You folks dealing with the cold. Yeah, man. What are your thoughts on the Bohemian Grove? Holy shit, bro. The first time I heard about the Bohemian Grove, I'm like, come on, bro. Although I did go through this conspiracy phase, with the chemtrails. I used to listen to this guy every night called Jeff Rentz. I didn't have any TV or internet or anything like that, so literally all I had was the radio, and Jeff Rentz would come on from 12 to 3, and he'd always talk to these alien people and these conspiracy people. So yeah, there you go. Hey, like your channel a lot. Was wondering what you would say has made you a Christian, and could you help me understand your reasoning for your beliefs? Mr. VH, I was pretty much born into Christianity. Had a very pathetic failed attempt at apostasy around 18 years old for a couple of years. I could do the apologetics thing, and I could do all that. But if you're asking me, it's just denying Christianity to me would be tantamount to saying I was never married to Sori. It'd be like somebody saying, why do you believe that you're married to Sori? Or why do you believe that Sori exists? I can do it. I can make the arguments and all that, and I can do the debates and all that jazz. But I mean, if whenever I get that question, like I'm always like, okay, people are asking me for an apologetic answer. So then I sometimes I did it like 45 minutes ago. Then I always feel like, yeah, but I mean, is that really honest? Like, I know that that's what people want, but what's the honest reason? The honest reason is not any of the like proofs for the resurrection or anything like that or whatever. It's just he's been with me my entire life, and I've seen him do things in my life, and I've seen him do things in other people's lives, and I've seen people meet him, and I've seen them change radically, and I've seen him carry me through some of the worst moments in my life, and he's been with me from before I was verbal. So if you're asking what is a real reason, that's why. If you say, okay, give me an apologetic argument, then sure we can have that conversation. But that's why for me. Please tell me you're not a flat earther. No, I'm not a flat earther. I don't believe the earth is flat. God is more real than I am. Yeah. I like the philosophies of Jesus. That to me is the only Christianity. Screw the churches and denominations. Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. Although churches have done some good in the world. If Christianity is true, the celebration of the cruelty of Jesus on the cross is enough to prove Satan is on the right side of history. Well, you could say that, Ben, but if you've seen some of the things that I've seen, then maybe you change your mind. Vin, that is fine. He has never been with me. Not that I've ever felt. And there are times my life has been a living hell. Depression. So this is why I cannot and do not believe. Well, Michael, I think that that's completely valid from your perspective. I get it. For sure. I'm with you. I understand. Hope you're doing fine. Do you place the current situation in the U.S. world against what is written in the Bible and Revelations? Blessings to you and Sori. I do not believe in the story that God is going to disappear millions of people and that the Antichrist is going to rise up and then there's going to be a 7-year tribulation and blah, 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 blah. I've told people, I said, you know what? Show me one verse in the Bible that tells us there's going to be a 7-year tribulation. It's never happened, and it never will happen because there is no such. So my understanding of America's place in the world is just to say we have the opportunity to do a lot of good. We happen to be the king of the hill at the moment, and we have the most opportunity to do the most good in the world, and that's as much as I'll say about America's, place in God's plan. Vin, what would Satan have to do to make you his friend? He says he likes metal music. I don't know. I'll have to think about that. I don't think I could ever be friends with the devil. He's hurt a lot of my friends. I'm not sure if I could ever do that. I think a lot was written was ancient past had to do with ET visitation. They just didn't have the vocabulary to accurately explain what they were seeing. Blue Hot Fuzz. Yeah, it could be that they didn't have the vocabulary to know what they were seeing, or maybe it's us who don't have the vocabulary to know what we're seeing. There's this assumption that because we're older or that we're farther along in human history that the people back then were all primitive and whatever. I'm not sure that that's the case. But yeah, I agree with the basic premise though, for sure. Why should the devil have all the good music? It's a good question. Lost faith due to hypocritical Christian stepdad beating me one day and preaching the next day. Holy shit, Nathaniel. I mean, I get it, bro. Sori has been replaced with a box of cereal. Yeah, that's my honey right there. Honey O's is now my favorite. I have not given up. Thanks to the good words, I just cannot go into belief in the way Vin does. That's why I label myself an agnostic. Yeah, I think everybody's on their own path, man, and I think it's a mistake for people to try to impose their path and the way they ran into God into other people. I think if God is real and all the Christianity stuff is real, then he can deal with a guy in YouTube saying, hey, there's a lot of fucked up shit that happened in my life. Where were you? I think God's big enough to handle that. So that's how I look at it. I think one of the things that I see in Jesus' emotional life is that he just was not very good at handling hypocrisy. He liked people who were just very, very straight up, and so you're one of those people, and I know that Jesus appreciates your honesty. So that's my perspective on it. Let me see here. Let me put another picture up there because I got this box of O's in there and it's pretty ridiculous. But I'm trying to figure this stuff out. All right, photo booth. No, I don't want the photo booth. What can I put up here? Nope, not going to put that up there. That'd be a bad idea. Oh, that's a good one. This kid is a model, man. You guys wait. We got some really cool stuff coming down the pike. I can't wait for you guys to see it. But you can't tell me that this kid isn't some sort of supermodel. Holy moly. Later, Z. I just sent you an email about the scripture verses that support the rapture and Christ coming. Well, I believe that there is going to be a catching away. I just don't believe that there's going to be world history after that. Brian. So that's the issue. Everybody believes that Christ is coming again. So I don't know what you mean by that. If Jesus were proven to not historically exist, what impact would that have on your faith in a higher power? Well, I mean, that would be the end of the show. If Jesus never existed, that'd be the end of the show. Vin, you make me want to be a daddy. It's the best thing in the world, bro. It's literally the best thing. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. This kid, holy moly. He is beautiful. Is that Orion? Yes. What's y'all's obsessions with normalizing Satan as a concept? Satan is evil, be he real or not. Why try to normalize evil? That's a good question. Top concert. Favorite concert has to be the most recent Korn show. Being able to hang out backstage with Head and the guy and develop an actual friendship with the guy and working on my band and talking to him about distortion pedals and shit. It's just amazing. It's a crazy world we're in. So that's my favorite. My second favorite show would have to be the April 8th, 2000 show, because that was my first rock show. Mindless Self-Indulgence, Stained, and then Korn. And I rocked so hard. I didn't listen to Korn for 3 weeks leading up to that show because I wanted it all fresh, and I just went ballistic for the entire show. So that was my second favorite show. Third favorite show was the Pledge of Allegiance tour, which is probably the best bill we ever had. You had System of a Down during the whole Chop Suey era. You had Rammstein. Then you had Slipknot. They had just come out with Iowa. Ridiculous concert. Amazing concert. That concert, we ended up meeting, my ex and I. We met Mick and Jim, and Jim was insane. He gave me his last vinyl of Iowa, signed it. I mean, didn't ask him for anything. It was insane. They were so good to us. So that was 3. 4 would be the Niabla show that me and Sori went to. The reason that it's like that is because that was Sori's first rock show, and we were hanging out with Zen and them after the show. But the crazy thing for us was people were like, "Hey, aren't you those YouTube people?" And that was the first time it ever occurred to us that people like knew what we were doing. Like, it was, I look back and like people would like stare at us in Walmart and stuff, but I never put it together. But yeah, that was the first time people were like, "Hey, you," and like a whole crowd was like around us, and it was just an insane kind of moment, like where I was like, "Oh my God!" And it was before COVID. So there's just a lot of hugging, a lot of people saying, we really appreciate what you guys do. Like people telling us stories about the impact of the channel. It was just like, we were just looking at each other like, this is insane. We can't believe this, So that was probably, we've had a couple special moments, but that was a big one. And then the last one was the most recent concert we went to, Slipknot concert, because Sori just went completely ballistic. She loved it. She was just letting her hair down and experiencing metal. And it was really, to me, like the moment where she like really transitioned to like, she's a bona fide metalhead. Like, this is not like, oh, I'm listening to this and all this. Like, she's transformed into an actual metalhead. It was pretty crazy to witness. So there we go. 5. Those are my top 5. Congrats, man. I'm pretty incredible how far this channel's come since showing Slipknot. Yeah, I know, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. And the Behemoth show was also crazy because Nergal, I think right before "Slave Shall Serve," I think was the name of the song, he was walking around on stage and he saw me and he did like a double take, and then he threw a pick at me, which I lost. And then he talked about us for a good 30 seconds. And then like, he's like, "If you see him, give him a bear." And then he's like, "Christians to the Lions" was the next song. It was great. It was unbelievable. After that show, people were coming out to us like, real satanic people. Like, that was like one of the craziest times where I was like, these satanic people, like, they get us, they understand us. And it's really interesting because there's a lot of Christians that don't get us or understand me and her. So for them to understand us and be like, "I get it, but here's my story," was a really significant moment, I think, for me and her. So, and also Nergal, just as an inspiration, the people behind me, I actually wanted to give my pick to this guy, but Sori really wanted. It was an awesome pick. It was a badass pick. I'd be using it right now if I remember to take it. But the guy behind me was talking about Nergal's leukemia and how inspired Nergal was to him, and how that resulted in him, overcoming his own personal problems. And it was just like, it brings a tear to your eye, man, because it's like, say what you want, whatever, he's on the wrong path, he's dark, whatever. But there was a lot of times when I felt like God present in that show, and a lot of people were able to garner a lot of inspiration from Nergal. And if that's what they need to get them that, then I'm happy, about that, obviously. Listen, I can't wait to get hate, but in my opinion, everything that Slipknot made past the third record was garbage. Who's your favorite angel? Shemyaza. I'm messing with you. Shemyaza is not my favorite angel. Probably Michael. Probably Michael. My second preferred album, Behemoth, is Evangelion. If I had any doubt the world was doomed, this chat has clarified all that for me. Thanks. Nothing more to worry about. Yeah, okay. Navy Blue Flame, thank you. I appreciate it. What are your thoughts on Nietzsche? Even though I'm a Christian, I think I would like to read some of his books. You should, Marcello. Nietzsche's great. Almost prophetic in what he saw coming down the pike. I think Nietzsche is misunderstood a lot and underappreciated, and he's required reading for my kids, so when they get to be the age. Always Metatron. Okay, Michael, I take that back. I'll throw in with you with Metatron. Metatron is probably the most badass. Just the name itself, like, forget it. Michael is indeed the coolest. He's got all the best stories, both in the Bible and the intertestamental literature. I don't know, Perk. I mean, Metatron, although there's some speculation that Metatron and Michael are the same. But yeah, Metatron, that's my guy. That is my guy. Holy moly. What kind of music do your kids listen to? They're into it's like dark pop type thing in Majiggy. I don't know how to characterize it. None of them are really into metal. Although Orion is into metal. When our song comes on, like when we go to practice, or I'll play the song in the shower because I'm like trying to, like, oh, should I tweak this? He loves metal. Like, he will start rocking immediately. He'll bring the speaker up and he'll start doing this because he wants to hear it. So Orion's a metal, but Orion was hearing all this shit in the womb. You know what I'm saying? But the other kids, they're not metalheads at all. It's funny. He's hilarious. Do you believe in demons, ghosts, and other supernatural phenomena? Yes, although I'm not certain I believe in the term supernatural. Have you ever read the Ramayana and the Mahabharata? No, I don't think I have. I have heard of the band Mars Volta. I think that their name is cool. I think we actually did one of their songs. I'm not sure. What does he think of black metal? What does Orion think of black metal? I'm not sure that he likes the tremolo stuff, but he loves the chunky stuff. He loves that shit. I can't wait to get our video out. Have you ever read Zacharias Sitchin's book? Yeah, Zacharias Sitch. Yeah. So Michael Heiser to me is scratches that itch for me a little bit better than Zacharias Sitchin. Although Sitch is he's a brilliant dude, and I appreciate what he did for the culture, for the people that know what we're talking about. But Michael Heiser to me is a little bit more reasoned and airtight in his sort of presentation of those. Yeah, Anunnaki, all that jazz. All right, 10 minutes, guys. Favorite metal band is Korn. Indian religious epics, you would love them. I bet. I got a Bhakti yoga guy that's hardcore evangelizing me, and I love him for it, because I hardcore evangelize him too. So TMV is jazz plays by pretentious rock musicians that aren't talented enough to play jazz. It's prog for deaf kids. What is TMV? Oh, the Mars Volta. Okay. When are you releasing your video song? It really has a lot to do with one of our band members. I'm being very, very general here, but it's one of our band members. It's holding up the timeline, but that's okay. We'll wait for him forever. Book update. Which book? Yes, Goth Mom. I have got You guys are genuinely my friends, man. So it's one of those situations where I just wanted to hang out with y'all. You know what I'm saying? It happens. Hold on, let me see here. I'm probably gonna watch a movie after this. Maybe not the Black Klansman. What's that other one? There's another movie I was thinking about watching. Not the Black Klansman. It's Judas and the something about Judas. But so I'll be watching that pretty soon. But yeah, I think I'm starting to figure out this thingamajiggy. Somebody email me something about Bitcoin, because I'm really, I don't know. Maybe I need to spend some money on it. Do you think Biden has a spine to recognize the Armenian genocide? No. Favorite Slayer song, Rain and Blood. That song is like, it's how could you not love that song? Rain and Blood from a lacerated sky. Could you please do a 311 reaction? Okay. What do you think of Biden raising insulin prices? I think it's horrible. Biden, I was saying this all of last year. You know, Trump was saying like he was thinking about a temporary Medicare for all type of situation because of COVID. Biden was saying, hell no. I mean, he's been horrible. And this whole anybody but Trump, we're about to reap the whirlwind, man. I really believe that. I really, 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 really believe that. So, not a fan, and I'm not surprised. The Wailing, I think you'd like it. No, I've never seen. Hey, Kellandros. I got to tell you, that No Mercy thing, that show No Mercy thing was a big thing for us in Taekwondo back in the day in our school. Our teacher was like really Christ-like, Sensei Kim. He was really, really Christ-like. And I was like leading the No Mercy thing with the crew. Ridiculous. And unbelievable stuff. Just made me remember stuff. Do you hear what happened with Marilyn Manson? Not surprised. I still kind of feel weird listening to his music now. I don't think you should feel weird listening to his music now. Manson has always been very explicit about how he's treated people, particularly women. So, like I said in the video, I don't excuse any of it, but I can understand why he's going, what the hell is going on? Because he's been talking about this shit for years. I think Brian's Head's answer to I was watching an interview, and he gave the best answer, which was, you know, that woman was in a lot of pain when she gave her testimony. And as Christians, we believe in the concept of redemption, in that no matter what a person's done, they're going to get a second chance to turn it around, and that we should accept it. You know, I'm saying we should accept, you know, whatever repentance Manson does. That's not my place to say that homegirl should do that. I know what's best for her mental health. I think there's a universal understanding about that. But that's my take on it. I think I'm just really big on accountability, and I think all of us have to look at how we handle sexuality and what we think the gates are, and that's a very complex question that I don't believe that many of us are ready to have, because it challenges a lot of notions, so you were like the Cobra Kai kid of your class, strike first, strike hard, no mercy. Yeah, I was a very, very bad influence in there, and I think that my sensei saw that I had a lot of problems at home, and I was the most talented kid in the school, in regard to that. So I feel like he overlooked a lot of situations. There was a kid that actually got kicked out of the school because at a tournament he hit somebody when he had already pointed, because like before UFC, there weren't these like tournaments where you're fighting and people were just going rah, rah, rah. Like the first time I saw somebody do a ground and pound on UFC, I was so angry. I was like, oh my God, like they need to DQ that guy, blah, blah, blah. They were like, no, that's legal here. So prior to that, like if you got a clean strike, if you did, they called it a deflection. So if you had a deflection, they'd keep the point. You'd get like half a point, but they wouldn't call until you had a clean strike. So this kid, Ronnie, shout out to the homie. He got the guy, and we were padded up and everything, but he got the guy in the rib with a punch, actually, which Taekwondo, if you know anything about that system, it's more foot oriented, it's more kick oriented in Taekwondo. Like a lot of these guys, like their stance is like they'll just stand there and kind of hop a little bit. They don't even have their guard up because it's a. So anyway, he caught this kid by surprise, got him a left right into the ribs, and it bowled the guy down a little bit, and then he kneed him. So the point got called, the kid was stumbling, and then he goes and knees the guy right in the puts him out, and stitches, and blood's everywhere, and all that shit. And he was like, yeah, and I was like, because he looked directly at me too. He's like, yeah, Vin, and like, I was like, like, I wouldn't have done that because the school was everything to me at the time. So I would have never done that. So he got bounced immediately. So I think that was pretty much the end of the whole no mercy stuff. We used to write in our backpacks and stuff going to school in Florida. And we thought we were cool, but after that happened, and I turned back into a little kid real quick because I knew he got it from me and everything, and I knew that he was getting kicked out, and like you guys have no idea, like the school was like my entire life at that point, because life at home was so crazy, and I was terrified, man. I was certain I was gonna lose the opportunity, but he Sensei Kim was one of these, I don't know if he's a Buddhist or whatever, but he was one of these guys that was able to like say something very significant without using a lot of words. And it was just basically like, one of those situations. So he obviously he got DQ'd. Our school actually ended up getting DQ'd out of the whole tournament, and we were on like a 3-year like undefeated streak. And, so Ronnie bore the brunt of that. It's pretty terrible. I didn't talk to him for like 2 weeks at school, but it wasn't because I was mad at. He thought I was mad at him. I just felt guilty. I felt like, that was completely my fault. You know what I mean? So, shout out to the homie. Do you use the lesser ritual of the pentagram before or after calling a demon? I don't do that. I don't call demons. So. Yeah, terrible situation. What is your opinion on offensive humor like South Park? I think you can joke about most things as long as everyone is under the impression it's a joke. Yeah, I think South Park is actually really really important to the culture, and it for some strange reason has been kind of the only. It's almost an institution now that's allowed to be offensive, and I think that's important. All right, guys, 5 minutes. 5 minutes. About to land the plane. About to land the plane, ladies and gents. Your choices for the ultimate band choosing members throughout history. Family Guy. Yeah, Family Guy. I haven't watched any Family Guy. But I heard it. I heard it was like that too. I've seen some super religious people get very offended by, for example, George Carlin. But if you can't laugh at yourself, that's a bad sign. Do you think there are different levels of racism or different levels of being a racist? Of course they are. Look, if you really pin me down, red, yellow, black, white, Puerto Rican, Dominican, look, man, I. This is something a lot of people don't know. When I was in the ghetto in the Bronx, Dominicans and Puerto Ricans hated each other. Puerto Ricans had this superiority complex that they were superior to the Dominicans. Dominicans don't wear socks. I've seen people fight like fists up because this Puerto Rican guy got called a Dominican, and they had to fight it out. So to me, I've just obviously living in Florida, Central Florida, seeing a lot of racism. There's a lot of racism in my family. Like you guys know how I feel about my mom, but she was like, I couldn't bring any really dark girls home, and I couldn't bring any white girls home. Like, so for me, when I talk about race, it to me, especially from my understanding of human nature, I just think that it's damn near impossible not to be some sort of ist. I was a massive sexist before I had daughters. And I don't think I'm cured of that. I think I had a lot of blind spots about how genders interacted in a culture until I had daughters. So for me, it's just like, I had this kind of discussion with Kellendros where the doctrine of original sin kind of actually makes it so that you're a lot more accepting of everybody because you realize that everybody's afflicted with the same disease, as it were, and we just have it in varying degrees. So if you pin me down, I think everybody's probably racist or sexist to a degree. And, becoming a better person is just about, shrinking the gap between you and Jesus's example. But there are certain national sins that we have made the ultimate sin. And for whatever reason, racism now has become the ultimate sin. So if you tell anyone, hey, you've got a supremacist tendency here or a racist ideology here, they can't hear anything else you have to say because they're thinking that you're talking about demonizing them the way the media does. And I think that's unfortunate because it's a complete conversation stopper. I kind of had fun in the comment section of the Tom McDonald video, but I had a really serious, it was one of those like Kellendrosian offline conversations with the guy. We talked for about 3 hours, and he's like, you know what, man? Okay, I see where you're coming from. I get you. I understand where you're coming from. I get it. He's like, I got to read a little bit more up on the sources, but I get where you're coming from. And I got where he was coming from because he's a white dude who, cops were horrible to him because he was poor and all the rest of it. So he's looking at it from a certain perspective, So it was one of those situations where, like, obviously on the channel, those are my favorite ones, right? Where you're having a one-on-one, there's no audience, whatever, and you're just connecting with another Homo sapien about, trying to figure out how to live on this marble together without putting blood on the ground. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the whole concept of the race issue. Usually I say something about race in passing because there's other things to talk about in a song or whatever. And so a person jumps on that and they assume that I'm thinking a certain way about things, when I'm not. Yeah, and to Kel's point, like, that's the thing is, like, I don't think, like, I think my understanding of the LGBT community now and how to engage and interface with the LGBT community from a biblical perspective is much closer to a Christ-like way than before I started the channel. So interfacing with all these LGBT people of various, whatever, listening to stories and then going back to the scriptures and things like that, it's helped me in how I engage them. So it's like, I don't think I was ever a homophobic person, but I was definitely insensitive to the specific exigencies that they have to go through that I was just ignorant about. And I don't think I'm a human being. I don't know what it's like to be trans. I don't. I didn't know. So I don't beat myself up over it. And I don't beat myself up about the way I was with women before I had daughters. And I don't think anybody should be beaten up for it. I think we're all trying to go somewhere. But again, it's such a crazy topic that people are, I'll say until I worked with someone who was trans or really knew people who are trans, I probably said some things that could perceive as transphobic. The real baddest people who are malicious, right? Yeah. I think there's a when you gain the knowledge and gain the understanding, and the thing is, groups like LGBT people, black people, sometimes women, they get socialized to be used to being treated that way. So there are times, unless you're actively going out to have that conversation, you're not even going to know because, they've just found a way to accept it and then move on. I'm a white former cop, SWAT, with a mixed race family. I'm screwed. I hear you, big bro. This is why it's so vital and important to know and form relationships with people different than you that you don't understand. It's easy to hate people if you dehumanize them. Tough to dehumanize someone you're friends with. Yeah. And what's been really, really cool, because I'm seeing somebody say I don't support LGBTQ, and I don't know what support means or doesn't mean. But what's been really cool to me is I've got LGBT friends, and I've never denied anything the Bible has said, and I've never walked back anything the Bible has said. But they've never, ever forced me to do that, to be their friend. And that was a stereotype that I had of LGBT people that was just completely untrue, at least from my experience with these folks. They go, okay, you're Christian, you're bound by the Bible, I get it, but people also understand, like, this is how you're treating us, you're trying to learn us, you're trying to understand us, and you're just trying to love us the best you can. And I think people understand that, and I think that's good enough for people. I think most people can understand that and work with it. The shit that we see in the media about people going crazy and trying to get people fired from their jobs and all this other stuff, I'm like, yeah, that's it's like that. I'm not even going to get into it, but there are very sensationalistic, bombastic people in the community that, are forcing certain things down people's throats. And obviously that's not good for the community as a whole, but that's not the experience on the day-to-day level that I've had anyway. So that's my take on it anyway. Is it possible some biases of biblical authors found its way into the Bible, or is it completely inerrant? I believe it's completely inerrant, Tyler. Yeah, Corgon, I kind of figured out what you were talking about. For sure. All right, guys. Thank you very much for hanging out. I'm really liking my my little side picture here. It's pretty cool. I think it makes the channel look very awesome and very cool. I'm extremely proud of it. Thank you guys for hanging out. Very, very challenging questions for sure. Web week is on the way, I guess. Much love to everybody. Thanks to everybody who prayed. Overshadow Sean, the rest of you guys. Yesterday was pretty terrible. Shout out to Lori Poo, another one of my favorite Satanists on the planet. Goth Mom, all you guys that were there for me yesterday, I really, really appreciate it. Definitely a tough time, man. Definitely a tough time. I'm glad you guys are there. Zombie Holic and all the folks that I talked to in the chat. If I missed a question or whatever that you angled toward me, I apologize. But like I said, I'm really committed to trying to make this thing a regular thing and all the rest of it. We would have done some live recordings, but Sori's got to make sure Sayla's good. So she's out of the anesthesia and all that jazz. So got to watch her for 24 hours, make sure she's good. So, but once we're out of those woods, then we're gonna be back at it, making music, all that jazz. Rural, send me an email, little bro, or big bro. Don't make me go all justice for all, man. I'm not gonna do it. I'm freaking committed. If we're doing Web Week, does that mean we're gonna get Light of Day, Day of Darkness? I don't know. That's up to Web. I'm just gonna go to bed and wake up and keep plugging away at this channel thing, calling our internet provider, and hopefully we can. My goal is to have 1080 quality, great syncing, all that jazz, and man, once that happens, I really want to front and center a lot of work on the channel and dive into the Patreon rabbit hole. I shot a couple videos on Patreon. I have so many ideas. Full disclosure, guys, like I left one of my real jobs, so we're just gonna focus exclusively on YouTube and Amazon. So kind of a risky thing to do considering all the situations, but I'm pretty confident that if we grind and we're consistently out here and giving a more interactive experience, that we'll be in good shape. And I think like the hardwire connection thingamajig people were talking about, that's something I'm going to explore. And once we do that, man, it's all systems go. Give me your credit card number. I know a guy. Yeah. Pasha. I got fired from mine. Sorry to hear that, Lori. Christ died for our sins, just as Scripture said. He was buried and he was raised from the dead on the third day, just as the Scripture said. Amen, Eric. Amen. Yeah. It's not easy, but I feel like we're in really, really good shape. Really good shape. But for us, like, I also like it because it kind of forces you to really front and center the channel and kind of forces you to, like, we've had this internet issue since the inception of the channel, right? So now it's like, okay, we have to have it. We've got to have it. And it's got to be done right. So now it's like, it's do or die. And so I kind of like that. I get bored unless like it's life and death. So, I think my life was getting a little bit too comfortable, but yesterday's events and other things have made it so that my life is not very comfortable, and I like it better that way. Things were getting a little, I don't know. I've never existed where I know what to expect every single day, and I actually think it's probably a flaw to a degree. Like you can use it as a kind of help type of thing, right? Where it's like, you're able to pivot in an ever-changing situation, but it's also a flaw in the sense that you get bored very quickly when everything is stable and perfect. So now everything is a little bit wobbly. So now it's like more do or die. There's more urgency. You feel a bit more of a sense of purpose and things like that. And so here we are. So, and it was a cool. I'll eventually like tell the whole story, but it was one of those situations. I told Sori, I'm like, yo, I'm about to quit this job, bro. Like, what do you think? And she's like, I said 1 to 10, and she's like 1,000. Do it. So that was the end of that. So yeah, we'll shoot a video about it at some point. But we're waiting for copyright stuff to go through and everything. We got some really cool stuff that we really believe in. That's gonna be pretty incredible, I think. So anyway, nobody wants to hear the silly details about that stuff, but I think that'll do it, guys. I think that'll do it. Let's see, how many suppressions do we still have? Amazon, you son of a bitch, you lied to me. Still 29 there. I'll tell you what, guys, if you guys ever want to do Amazon, talk to me in 6 months. I'll tell you, that shit is holy moly. It's not fun, but it's all part of it. All right. Are we going to buy the New Evidence record, The Bitter Truth? What I really want to do is I want to do some live listens for entire records, man. Like, I got so much time now. Like, we should really be able to blow everybody out of the water, because I'm friends with a lot of reactors and stuff, and like it's not. People think it's easy. It is not easy by any means. It's really, really, really hard, actually. But there's a couple things where I'm like, man, we could really, really go out and just like go all out here and crush. So anyway, we're going to. Yeah, excited for the music. Music's great. Like I said, we got top-notch, legendary musicians. In my opinion, it's not my opinion. It's just a fact. It's a fact. The talent level's insane. Working behind the scenes with some publicists and shit. I told Sori, I'm like, yo, man, like, we got to find a way to, like. We just got to find a way to get our music out there and play, because I love it. All right, I'm talking too much now. I got to get out of here, guys. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you all. Stay safe. And I love you. God loves you. You know that, whether you act like it or not, Ben Webb. All right, guys, I got to get out of here.